New comments in an interview from AEW wrestler Deonna Purrazzo have once again opened up the discussion on if Mercedes Mone has creative control over her character and her creative in All Elite Wrestling. We'll let you know what Purrazzo had to say. The Hardy Boys say they want one last hurrah in WWE. UFC confirms plans for a fight on White House grounds in the future. Kenny Omega says he would have been satisfied if his in-ring return match earlier this year with Gabe Kidd was his last match ever. Mark Henry clarifies the nature of his WWE contract. Josh Alexander details his journey to AEW. WWE Hall of Famer Jim Ross weighs in on CM Punk's recent Saudi Arabia controversy. Goldberg notes a fun highlight from his sit-down interview with Michael Cole recently on Raw. Chavo Guerrero is reportedly back in WWE. More details on the involvement of the New Jack character in WWE 2K25. And Carmelo Hayes and Kalani Jordan announced their engagement. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Before we begin today's news video, you can see right there, we are less than 50 subscribers away from 23,000 subscribers. Of course, on that road to 25k in 2025. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Join the ever-expanding WNU. And really appreciate everyone that's subscribed recently, or has been subscribed since the beginning, or somewhere in between. Now, let's begin once again with conversation surrounding just how much creative control Mercedes Mone has in AEW. Of course, Mone is currently the AEW TBS champion. She's set to challenge Timeless Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship in one of the featured matches at AEW All in Texas, and she's yet to be defeated in singles competition since arriving in AEW back in 2024. Now, Deonna Purrazzo has done an interview talking about wrestler input in storylines. For many wrestlers, input on their character and promos is a common part of the industry in the modern era, as writers and producers take on board their thoughts. This has been something that has been commonplace in All Elite Wrestling throughout its run, as several wrestlers have explained that they have felt heard in the promotion with regard to their character work. While speaking to the Digital Social Hour in a new interview, Deonna Purrazzo was asked about if wrestlers have input with their storylines. She said, quote, "Yeah, it kind of depends on where you are. Like for me, I don't get too much input in that, but there are women above me at AEW that do get more input. So it kind of just depends where you come from, what your status is, and things like that. Right now, Mercedes Mone, who was Sasha Banks in WWE, kind of gets that open forum to be like, I'd like to work with this person, and these are my ideas. And then the writers kind of, not necessarily conform, but they do listen to what she has to say. I don't necessarily have that type of pull per se, but I definitely think that women are growing in that position in our industry. It just takes role models to be like, I'm going to break that mold. I'm going to push that boundary. I'm going to get myself in those positions and then let other people follow in their footsteps. So this has naturally led to more conversations about whether Mercedes Mone does have creative control in AEW, particularly given the fact that she has never lost in the organization in singles competition, and she's the current TBS champion and challenging for the AEW Women's World Championship at All in Texas. Of course, all reports have suggested that she doesn't have creative control in AEW, but it won't necessarily stop the conversation from ongoing. Let's talk about the Hardy Boys possibly returning to WWE. Matt and Jeff Hardy of the Hardy Boys returned to WWE programming this year, competing in NXT thanks to the ongoing working relationship between TNA Wrestling and WWE. The pair defeated No Quarter Catch Crew on the February 25th episode of NXT before going on to successfully defend the TNA World Tag Team Championships against Fraxium at NXT Roadblock 2025. Their cameos in NXT came to an end after this matchup, but the pair are still eyeing up more appearances. Speaking in an interview with Errol Hawani, the pair responded to a question about being satisfied if they were to end their careers in TNA. Matt noted that they wanted one last run in WWE before hanging up the boots for good. Quote, "Maybe, I think we do want to do the WWE Hall of Fame. We would like to do one last hurrah with WWE. That could be possible while working with TNA. We'll see. It would be nice to still have the most limited schedule we could have, which would optimize the amount of time we could spend spend with our families and kids, everything is kind of up in the air right now. We both feel good and we're both going to rock and roll as long as we can do it. When it comes to time frame, Jeff Hardy mentioned 2030 as a potential year to retire and head for the WWE Hall of Fame, as they noted that they were in no rush to end things yet. In the same interview, Jeff Hardy also reflected on their time in AEW and his personal issues that he has seemingly since overcome. Now, a bit of TKO news when it comes to the UFC here. A UFC representative has confirmed plans to hold a UFC fight on the White House grounds during the 2026 Independence Day celebration, marking the 250th anniversary of the United States. The news of the confirmation was reported by The Athletic, a branch of the New York Times, on the 4th of July. No additional details were provided. It was stated, however, that the White House has not yet responded and that the planning process for the event is still in progress. President Donald Trump first mentioned the idea during a speech at the Iowa State Fairgrounds on July 3rd. He even claimed it would be a full fight with up to 25,000 spectators. Conor McGregor, who hasn't fought since 2021, said he would be honored to participate. Of course, Trump frequently attends UFC events and gets his own entrance. Kenny Omega, he's been reflecting on his return to pro wrestling this year, with Kenny Omega hospitalized in December 2023 due to a serious case of diverticulitis. The AEW EVP was out of action for the entirety of 2024. He returned to the ring on January 5th, facing Gabe Kidd at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Dynasty event, of course co-promoted with AEW, ahead of returning to the ring for AEW 10 days later. During an interview on Wrestling Observer Radio, Omega revealed that he was extremely happy with the match and was initially of the mindset that if it would have been his final match, he would have been satisfied. Omega said, quote, "I got myself into a position where I thought I could maybe do this again. And the Tokyo Dome show came and went, and I was extremely happy with it. I thought, like, well, if that's one last ever one for me, then boy, I'm satisfied with that. It gets to a point where you're thankful for every next performance that you can have. I'm still sort of there. I'm always counting my blessings." Of course, Omega is preparing for a huge match at AEW All in Texas this coming weekend, with the international champion set to face the continental champion, his legendary rival Kazuchika Okada, in a match which will see both titles combined into the AEW Unified Championship. Bit of an update here on WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry. After a WWE wrestler officially decides to hang up their boots, talent can be offered a Legends deal, with the contract allowing veterans to make future appearances and earn royalties from the company. Despite reportedly being signed to a WWE Legends deal, WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry clarified in a recent interview with Shaq Wrestling that he's under a nostalgia contract, with the agreement consisting of more business-related expectations. Henry outlined his responsibilities under a nostalgia contract while also detailing the obligations many have with a Legends deal need to fulfill. Quote, "Video games, action figures, appearances, corporate meetings, upfronts, different things to that effect is what I do," Henry said. "Showing up on television and going to do community activations and so forth and being part of a lot of skits and so forth, that's more of the Legends. Going to the Hall of Famers and different things, I don't do that." Despite being under a WWE contract, Henry doesn't hide his true feelings about the product on Busted Open Radio, as he explained that he honors being truthful with listeners and their opinion. He said, quote, "I'm critical about WWE programming on Busted Open. We want your criticism because they listen, and that's all they told me. They value their opinion, and every opinion that I make may not hit the mark, but it's based off the way I see things, and my opinion, not always fact. I'm not going to act like something was great when it was rotten," end quote. Josh Alexander, of course, one of the latest members of the AEW roster, and he's discussed his journey to All Elite Wrestling and why he was rejected by the company previously. Alexander admitted that he had asked about potentially joining AEW in 2019, but was told by someone in the promotion that he wasn't ready then. While he didn't name the AEW personnel that gave him that news years ago, he explained on Hey EW why he is now equipped to perform at a promotion like AEW. Quote, "Well, I know why I wasn't signed by AEW earlier, because I hadn't built up my name enough. I was a guy on the indies," he said. "I definitely got better, and this place AEW got better too, but I caught up." After spending several years in TNA Wrestling, Alexander finally made the switch to AEW earlier this year, debuting on AEW Dynamite in April. Alexander's 6-year run with TNA ended at the beginning of the year after the expiry of his contract with the promotion. The former TNA World Heavyweight Champion had revealed recently that TNA didn't even make him a contract offer, which meant he was certain to join AEW. Prior to joining TNA in 2019, the same year that AEW was born, Alexander wrestled on the indie circuit for nearly a decade. Alexander turned heel immediately after debuting in AEW, joining the Don Callis family in the promotion. The Canadian star, regarded as one of the best technical wrestlers of his era, has his sights set on several opponents, including some of his fellow countrymen, as he looks to make a bigger name for himself in pro wrestling. Now, last weekend, a lot of people were talking about CM Punk, his first appearance for WWE in Saudi Arabia. CM Punk recently came under fire from several online fans when he went back on his stance against Saudi Arabia to not only compete at Night of Champions against John Cena, but also publicly apologize for a X-post he made years ago, criticizing WWE's shows in the country and hitting back at The Miz. However, not everyone disagrees with Punk, and in a recent episode of his Grilling JR podcast, Jim Ross came to the defense of the former AEW World Champion, quote, "It's overthought, and I know that Punk's heart is in the right place," Ross noted. "He's controversial, that's why he's so fun to follow. Phil's a good friend of mine. I am a full-on supporter of his work, I really am. I still wish he was at AEW, quite frankly." Ross further emphasized that the entire controversy is overthought and suggested that fans simply take it easy and move on from Punk's comments. Elsewhere, Rob Van Dam also commented on the hypocrisy of Punk. According to the veteran, in an episode of his One-of-a-Kind podcast, he doesn't consider it hypocrisy unless the person went back on their word at the same time. Van Dam urged that people can grow and change their perspective over time, and doesn't consider Punk a hypocrite for his apology. It remains to be seen if anything will come out of this beyond social media controversy, but during a new report, Dave Meltzer interestingly suggested that WWE threw Punk under the bus, and while that may or may not be true, there's definitely some storyline potential there, you could think, in the future. Goldberg, he's gearing up for his retirement match against Gunther, and Goldberg has returned to pro wrestling and already secured himself a championship match for the upcoming Saturday night's main event against reigning World Heavyweight Champion Gunther. To build some momentum around their clash, Goldberg sat down for an interview with Michael Cole, where he explained his grievances against Gunther and why he needs to face the champion. But according to the Hall of Famer, there was one moment in the interview that he enjoyed the most. During an episode of his CarCast podcast, Goldberg briefly commented on the interview, joking that it wasn't the only thing that dropped. Quote, "So, did an F-bomb, that was fun," he said before accidentally dropping another. "It came out, man. What the F?" Despite Goldberg's brief comments on the interview of Cole, it hasn't been universally well received. According to Bully Ray, during an episode of Busted Open Radio, not only was the segment forced, but it made Goldberg come off terribly arrogant. Instead, Bully suggested that Goldberg should have seemed more humble to be catapulted into a championship match so soon upon his return to wrestling, instead of playing to the acclaim that he had in WCW as justification for his title shot. Earlier in the same podcast, Goldberg went on more of a tangent when talking about his upcoming match, boldly claiming that he's 58 and suffered several injuries already, so his mental state is an all-or-nothing one. Additionally, he simply said he doesn't care how badly he'll be beat up walking into the match, but he'll be ready when the bell rings. Now, Chavo Guerrero reportedly is back with WWE. Chavo Guerrero was at WWE and AAA Worlds Collide, but it could lead to actually more than that. Sources that Chavo spoke to ahead of and around the event claim that he said he is back with the company in an official capacity. Now, Fightful Select say they did reach out to WWE for comment or confirmation, but they haven't heard back as of yet. Chavo has remained somewhat active as a wrestling performer, working for AAA, TNA, GCW, and a number of indies over the last year or so. Guerrero has also worked a number of television shows as well. Now, this is an interesting one when it comes to New Jack in WWE 2K25. Fans will get an authentic New Jack experience in WWE 2K25. New Jack is set to be a playable character in WWE 2K25 as part of the Fearless Pack, which releases on July 23rd. Fans who play as New Jack will get a special treat if they play a no disqualification singles match. WWE 2K developer Brian Williams revealed that New Jack will have a special entrance with a trash can full of weapons, and his music will play throughout the match. This is what Brian said, quote, "When New Jack is released with DLC Pack 3, he'll come with 2 entrance motions. One that he uses for normal rule one-on-one matches, and a special entrance that he'll use for non-DQ one-on-one match types. Both entrances are great, but the one he uses for non-DQ match types, again one-on-one, is amazing, as New Jack will make his way to the ring, drag in a garbage can full of weapons. Jack tosses the garbage can into the ring, and the weapons go flying out. When the match starts, the garbage can and spilled weapons will be in play. And his entrance theme will continue to play throughout the match. For those not familiar with New Jack, this is not a bug, it's a feature." So getting the authentic New Jack entrance on WWE 2K25. And finally, a huge congratulations to Carmelo Hayes and Kalani Jordan. Carmelo Hayes and Kalani Jordan are engaged to be married. The couple announced their engagement on social media, with Kalani writing, quotes, "I said yes, and I'd say yes in every lifetime." The photos are dated for July 1st. Of course, they are both signed to WWE, and we congratulate the couple on their engagement. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. As you can see right there, we're getting closer and closer to 23,000 subscribers. Less than 50 to go. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. You can scan that QR code in the sidebar right there and join members of the WN365 roster. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content. In addition to checking out the sidebar, you can also see all upcoming live streams we've got on the channel next weekend. It's going to be a big one. We've got AEW All in Texas. We've got Saturday night's main event, Goldberg versus Gunther, in Goldberg's retirement match for the World Heavyweight Championship. And we've got WWE Evolution as well, the return of WWE's All-Women's PLE. We'll have live watch-alongs and live post-shows for every single show. I appreciate everyone for tuning in as always, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.